Can you imagine? 20% of the world's population holds 80% of its wealth. Coincidence? Or is there a hidden mathematical principle at play? Welcome to the enigmatic world of the Pareto principle, a mathematical phenomenon that seems to have a knack for popping up in the most unexpected places. Named after the Italian economist Vilfredo Pareto, who stumbled upon this pattern while studying wealth distribution in the late 19th century, the Pareto principle asserts that a significant chunk of effects often comes from a relatively small number of causes. To put it simply, Pareto observed that approximately 80% of the land in Italy was owned by just 20% of its population. But as he delved deeper into this pattern, he realized that this distribution was not exclusive to Italian land ownership. In fact, it was a common occurrence in various aspects of economic life and beyond. But what does this mean? Well, the Pareto principle, or the 80-20th rule as it's often called, suggests that in many situations, a small number of factors are responsible for a large proportion of the outcomes. It's like saying that 20% of your clothes are what you wear 80% of the time, or that 20% of the pea pods in Pareto's garden produced 80% of the peas. But don't be fooled. The Pareto principle isn't just about peas or clothing. It's a principle that transcends the borders of economics and enters the realm of the natural and social sciences, and even mathematics itself. It's seen in areas as diverse as software programming, where a small percentage of bugs cause most of the crashes, to sports, where a small number of athletes win the majority of competitions. So, what we're dealing with here is not just a simple rule of thumb, an economic theory, or a business strategy. It's a mathematical principle that has a mysterious knack for turning up in the most unexpected places. This 80-20 rule, as it's also known, is not just an economic phenomenon, but a principle deeply rooted in mathematics, the Pareto distribution. So what exactly is this Pareto distribution? How does it manifest itself in the realm of numbers and equations? To answer that, let's dive deeper into the mathematical concept of Pareto distribution. Named after Vilfredo Pareto, an Italian economist who first observed the distribution pattern, Pareto distribution is a probability distribution that represents outcomes which are not evenly distributed. Imagine throwing a die. The probability of each outcome from 1 to 6 is equal. This is a uniform distribution, but life is rarely uniform. Outcomes are often skewed, and this is where Pareto distribution comes in. In mathematics, Pareto distribution is defined by two parameters: k, a positive number that determines the shape of the distribution, and x_mm, the smallest possible value of the random variable. The distribution is represented by the probability density function, which looks like this: fx kx_m equals sign k asterisk x_m circumflex k, xk plus 1 for x equals sign x_m and 0 otherwise. Let's put it into perspective with a practical example. Think of a bookstore. The sales of books are not uniformly distributed. Some books sell a lot, while others sell very few. If we apply Pareto distribution, we might find that about 20% of the books account for 80% of the sales. This is often referred to as the 80-20 rule, a common manifestation of Pareto distribution. However, Pareto distribution isn't limited to the 80-20 rule. The distribution could be 90-10, 70-30, or any other ratio, depending on the values of k and x_m. It's the skew itself that's important, not the specific numbers. So Pareto distribution is a mathematical tool that helps us understand and model imbalances in real-world scenarios. It's a bridge between the abstract world of numbers and the tangible world around us. As we can see, Pareto distribution is a mathematical concept that is both simple and complex, and its implications echo far beyond the realm of numbers and equations. But wealth and mathematics are not the only domains where Pareto distribution is observed. It's surprisingly ubiquitous. Let's take a walk through some other aspects of life where this fascinating principle makes an appearance. In the realm of nature, we find that the Pareto distribution is at play in the sizes of meteorites that hit Earth. The larger the meteorite, the less frequently it occurs, following a Pareto-like distribution. The same principle is seen in the distribution of species. A few species are very common, while many others are rare, again following a Pareto-like distribution, but it doesn't stop there. Let's take a detour into the world of linguistics. The words in any language also seem to follow the Pareto distribution. A small number of words are used exceedingly often, while a large number of words are used very rarely. This is known as Zipf's law, a specific type of Pareto distribution. Now let's dive into the digital realm. Ever wondered about the traffic on the internet? It's Pareto's playground as well. A small percentage of websites garner the majority of the traffic, leaving a long tail of websites that receive relatively little attention. And how about that social media site where you post pictures of your breakfast? The number of followers per user on social media platforms also follows a Pareto distribution. A handful of users have millions of followers, while the majority of users have just a few. Even in our daily lives, Pareto is at work. Take your wardrobe, for instance. You likely wear a small percentage of your clothes most of the time, leaving the majority unworn. This is often referred to as the 80-20 rule, another form of Pareto distribution. As we delve deeper into different aspects of life, we find that Pareto distribution is not an exception, but rather a rule. Understanding Pareto distribution can significantly impact how we approach problems and make decisions. Let's dive into the realm of business. A classic example of Pareto distribution at work is the 80-20 rule, also known as the Pareto principle. It suggests that 80% of a company's profits often come from 20% of its customers. This principle helps businesses identify their most valuable clients and focus their resources more efficiently. It's not about ignoring the other 80%, but about understanding where the most significant impact can be made. Now, let's shift gears to economics. The wealth distribution in most countries is a real-life illustration of Pareto distribution. A small proportion of the population holds a large percentage of the total wealth. This understanding can guide policymakers in creating more effective and equitable economic policies. But it's not just about big businesses or economies. Pareto distribution also has personal implications. Consider the clothes in your wardrobe. You might find that you wear 20% of your clothes 80% of the time. Recognizing this pattern can help you declutter, make smarter purchasing decisions, and even simplify your life. In the world of software development, understanding Pareto distribution can lead to better product design. It's often observed that a small number of features are used most frequently by users. By focusing on enhancing these key features, developers can significantly improve the user experience. Even in healthcare, Pareto distribution comes into play. A small number of diseases account for a large proportion of healthcare costs. This insight can guide health professionals and policymakers in prioritizing resources and interventions for the greatest impact. So you see, the Pareto distribution is more than a mathematical concept. It's a lens through which we can view the world, helping us identify where our efforts can have the most significant impact. The Pareto distribution, once understood, can be an extremely powerful tool in our decision-making arsenal. So, we've seen how Pareto distribution is a pervasive principle that governs various aspects of our world. This mathematical model, often known as the 80-20 rule, is not just a numerical curiosity. It provides a lens through which we can view and understand the world in a strikingly different manner. Let's take a moment to journey back through the scenes we've traversed. We started with the mystery of Pareto distribution, a principle that's as intriguing as it is universal. We explored how it's not just a mathematical concept, but a principle that plays out in everyday life, in nature, and in wealth distribution. Then we delved into the mathematical heart of Pareto distribution. It's not just a random rule, but a mathematical principle with a firm basis in probability theory. It's a pattern that emerges again and again in fields as diverse as economics, business, and even in the natural world. We also looked at the ubiquity of Pareto distribution. It's not just a mathematical oddity, but a principle that's pervasive across many different domains. From the distribution of wealth in society, the size of cities, to the popularity of books and movies, Pareto distribution is a principle that's deeply woven into the fabric of our world. Finally, we explored the impact of Pareto distribution. This principle has profound implications for how we understand the world, make decisions, and devise strategies. Whether it's in business, economics, or even personal productivity, understanding Pareto distribution can provide us with valuable insights. In essence, Pareto distribution reveals a fundamental truth about our world. A small percentage often has a major impact. It's a principle that's both simple and powerful. In the end, the Pareto distribution is a fascinating mathematical principle that helps us understand the world in a unique way, where a small percentage often has a major impact. The 80-20 rule, it seems, is truly a rule of our world.